in St. John's Gospel, chapter 3, and we're closing it, I hope, I pray. Well, we'll just go as it goes. And you notice now that he is saying, remember we talked verse 29 the last time, he that hath the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom which standeth and heareth him, he rejoiceth greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This my joy therefore is fulfilled. He must increase, but I must decrease. He that cometh from above is above all. He that is of the earth is earthly. Speaketh of the earth, he that cometh from heaven is above all. And what he hath seen and heard, that he testifieth, and no man receiveth his testimony. He that hath received his testimony hath set to his seal that God is true. For he whom God hath sent speaketh the words of God. For God giveth not the Spirit by measure unto him. The Father loveth his Son, hath given all things into his hand. He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life, and he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him. Now, we talked a little bit to bring everybody up to speed about the issues of the bridegroom and the bride, and certainly in relating John to Jesus in such a marvelous fashion. It's just marvelous. I just wish that all of us in ministry could have the same kind of disposition towards each other, particularly when one is coming in and the other is going out. Because oftentimes the proclivity, the tendency is to try to hold on. It goes for every office in church. You know, some people are fighting to maintain an office when God's trying to take them higher. So the reason you can't go higher is because you're holding on and won't let go. I'm learning that now. I'm learning that everything is progressive and there's evolution in growth. And oftentimes in growth, you have to release something in order to gain something else. But releasing things, particularly after you have been enamored to them and after you have been dedicated to them so long, you have a tendency to believe that nobody else can do the job as well as you. But the truth is, God never left himself without a witness. And none of us is indispensable. None of us. If men were indispensable as it related to the gospel, then Peter, James, and John would still be here. God had to entrust what he gave them to someone else, and the evolution continues. Now, every generation says, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm gone. No, every generation questions the next one. And very consistently, what it does is it kills or it seeks to modify and nullify, if not nullify, modify the zeal and the drive of the people who are coming. And the attitude is that nobody is going to have the ebullience, the passion, have the ability or the skill that you have. Well, if nobody under you is going to have the skills that you have, then you have failed. You have failed. You have failed because part of your activity and part of your ability to function is to share it and to empower others with the knowledge that you have gained. Indeed, my father said to me years ago, he said, son, you'll never be a success if you don't have a successor. So part of the whole issue of operating and part of moving into a higher plane is to make sure that you have mentored somebody or somebodies I just left my dentist a while ago, and he has a LEAP program. So I said to him, I don't know if any of you went to the LEAP program that I talked about. And it's an interesting program because it doesn't deal with the knuckleheads. I can't talk too loud. It doesn't deal, many times we spend our time on people who are problematic. And we're always trying to recover. And in recovering people who are problematic all the time, we fail to give time to gifted people who are not problematic, who need just a little help to go to the next level. Everybody isn't in the basement in their character. And it's an interesting thing that there are a lot of people who, we are awake now. It's interesting that there are a lot of people who are extraordinarily gifted, but they don't have any character. Help me a little bit more, sound man, if you didn't blow the highs. Okay. And because of their giftedness exposes you. Giftedness puts you in the lights. People aren't attracted even to my ministry because of my character. Because most people don't know your character. They go pretty much by your reputation. But most people are attracted to you because of your giftedness. Yes. Since you hold out on me, just think about Tiger Woods. Everybody puts him and dumps him when they found out that he likes women. I don't like the term womanizer because I think womanizer reduces women. I think it reduces women. What it says is that a woman hasn't exercised her right to choose, or she's too inadequate mentally to decide yes or no. Are you following me? Now, you don't have to agree. I mean, this is not Bible. It's certainly not Bible. But the point is that ain't no sense in none of you grown women complaining about being overwhelmed by some man. You had to have made a choice. Somewhere you put your mind in it. And so consequently, there are people who are looking at Tiger Woods, but all of Nike and all of the people who were giving him advertising, we're not giving him advertising based on his character. All the advertising dollars that they spent with him was based primarily on his giftedness. And the popularity he gained was by his giftedness. You see, many times people are gifted, but they have no character. And then all of a sudden, when we discover their character traits and their character faults, we dump them. Should I elaborate or should I go on? You want elaboration? All right. Now, I'll tell you that it's interesting how quickly people will dump you. Because as long as you're not contributing any longer to their social status or to their comfort zone, they will dump you. Let's take Patino, for instance. Not Patino, but the coach at Penn State, Paterno. When you think about Patino was the coach at Louisville, basketball coach at Louisville, and he got in some trouble too, and he had to, fight through it too. But take Paterno, for instance. Paterno in his heyday, 1,000+ wins. So they put up a monument, which is a statue of him outside of the school. The statue now represents his victories, and the association with the statue as a legacy makes for praise for the university. You have selected a coach who has won all these games, and he is indeed an asset to the university, without a doubt. You stop to consider, and we don't give much consideration to the fact that anytime there is a need for money in a university setting, whether for lacrosse, you ever heard of that? Whether for the tennis program, whether for horseshoe program, whatever program they have, and they're trying to maintain the budget for the program, and whenever any of these little programs go to ask for money, here's what they're told: buy football and basketball tickets. The football of any university and the basketball of the university pays for everything else. Who are the dominant basketball players? Who are the dominant football players? Yet at the end of the day, everybody else graduates but them. Yet they paid for the whole program. So the TV money coming in, with Paterno winning 1,000+ games, I mean, they charged the school $60 million. Now you're paying a $60 million fine. Do you know how much money they've made over the years? So they build a monument for Paterno. When he gets in trouble, they tear the monument down, because the monument that once represented success now represents failure and scandal. So we remove the monument. Hey, it ain't new. It ain't new. When David sinned, Jesus said, not Jesus, God through, for oneness people, we throw them all together. God through Nathan said, you are forgiven, but the child shall die. The ramifications of that cannot be discussed in an open forum until the folk died out. Because when folks start talking and want to put you down, they don't get tired. People get tired of praising you, but they don't get tired of putting you down. The enemies of the Lord. Now notice now, church, not the friends of the Lord, but the enemies of the Lord. Make sure in all of your holy stand, you don't end up being an enemy. Because friends cover, they don't expose. When you love somebody, you cover them up. I wish somebody tell me different. When you love somebody, you cover them up. The folk you expose are folk you don't care about. But the folk you love, you cover them. Amen. You know them kids you got are crazy, but you won't admit it. The spirit of transition and mentoring and the ease in which someone should step down, predicated upon what they have put in someone else, and the ease in which they should see the extension of themselves go forward in somebody else, and sit back and enjoy it. Enjoy it. And sometimes because we haven't done enough in our own lives, we become very cynical and critical of others who are doing something with their lives, even if they're younger than we are. John knew his time was up, and yet still his accommodation of Jesus and the wonder, the bridegroom and the bride. I'm not the bridegroom, he's the bridegroom, but I'm the friend of the bridegroom, and I'm happy for him. Amen. I don't want his wife. I'm happy for him. Because, and sometimes preachers act as if the church ought to love him like love Jesus. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't care how much praise they heap on you. They're going to love the Lord more than you. And many times people are trying to get saints to love him, and all the saints won't love me and they won't treat me right, and they ain't supposed to love you like that. You bring the message and you give God the praise for bringing the message, and you turn people on to Jesus. This is why he says, I must decrease. Pastor must never get in the way of somebody loving their Lord. He should never loom so great that he's the center of the whole house. The center of the house ought to be Jesus Christ. And he alone. And whenever you feel like people are pushing you too high, you ought to stop it. I mean, relax it. Oh yeah, you can stop it. Ease it up. Amen. People ought to serve him and him alone. Shall they serve and worship, and him alone. It's not about being big. The biggest one of us ought to be the servant. That's what he's saying. Servanthood shows your size. He continues then, and it's now going to get real interesting, because now he's dealing with the issue of him coming from above. And if he's from above, then he's above all. He that is of the earth is earthly, and speaketh of the earth. He that cometh from heaven is above all. Now Nicodemus is still listening to this, isn't he not? Or we passed through Nicodemus. Is he still a student, or is he now out of the way? I think he's out of the way, because then there arose a question between some of John's disciples and the Jews about purification. Stay with me now. That's verse 25. Now, we understand that what has happened here is that the revelatory move of God is expressed by John, because he realizes that the whole system here is a system of bringing heaven into earth. I'm earthly, so I'm bound. He's above me because he's celestial. Now, it's something about being spiritual. That spirituality gives you access to all worlds. Might I go over that again? I didn't say religion and religiosity and being religious. I said being spiritual gives you access to all worlds. It gives you access to an earthly environment, and it gives you control of it. It gives you access to demonic environments, and it gives you control of it. It gives you access to heavenly environments, and it helps you to participate in it. Because if you're spiritual, you have access to all worlds. If you're carnal, that's where you stop. Because in a carnal state and in an unborn again state, you have no access to the things of God. See, when you're spiritual, then you're operating within the parameters of the Creator. And as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. And in a spiritual environment, you become a joint heir with Christ, which means whatever he possesses, you possess as a joint heir. So no longer do I have to fight over anything that's earthly. It's mine anyway. We should understand it. I don't have to connive, and I don't have to trick. I don't have to go through any kind of changes over anything in any world, because if I'm a joint heir, then I have possession of it anyway. You see, this is a place where the saint is in a spiritual environment. Because once I'm in a spiritual environment, so he that's from above is above all. I have been locked into this earth. Now notice the difference between you and John. Of no man born of a woman is greater than John the Baptist. Don't stop there. But he that is least in the kingdom is greater than he. No man born of a woman, that's earthly. But he that is least in the kingdom, that's heavenly. So you cannot raise the quality of the earthly to the point where it can even enter into the heavenly. Oh, we've been through that. Except a man be born again. This is not an issue that you transition after you get to a certain. Have you been? There's a place in Lumpur, over there in Indonesia somewhere, and the bridge is nearly 100 stories high. 2 buildings go up, and then you bridge at nearly 100 stories. I've been to Milwaukee, and it gets cold up in there. St. Paul, Minnesota, a place like that gets cold, and so they try to keep you inside as much as they can in the wintertime. So you go up 2 stories and you bridge. When I go to Vegas, I like peace and quiet, so I stay at the Four Seasons because there's no gambling in the Four Seasons. It's just peace and quiet, and I like peace and quiet. But every now and then I want a little noise and a little ruckus. So all I do is I take an elevator and I go up 2 floors and I walk across to Mandalay Bay. You follow? I've got my haven of rest and peace, and if I just want to venture out for a little noise and run back, it's fine. You see, I got a choice. I'm not walking into Bellagio and everything is clinking and all the way to the end. No, I got a choice, but I only have to go 2 floors. If I'm over in Singapore now, or over there in Indonesia, now I got to go 100 floors. It don't matter how many floors you go, you can't cross from the earthly into the heavenly. You got to be born into it. And what he is saying essentially is, no matter how great John the Baptist is, one of the least in the kingdom is greater than he. Because you can't be born so into aristocracy, or to be an aristocrat to the point where it moves God. If you're not born into his kingdom, you can't be greater than anybody that's in his kingdom. Because to be born again gives you the right and the privileges to have the citizenship of heaven. And nothing on earth. And God has no problem with that. Oh, he's real secure. Now, Jesus muddied the waters when Jesus said, except a man will leave his mother, his father. You know, you leaving your mother, father, wife. If a man ain't willing to leave all them for my name's sake, he said, they're not worthy of me. Now, he just muddied the waters with that. But what he's saying is, if you're going to be unbalanced, and you're going to make a choice between one of us, I have to win. You see, because Adam did the very opposite. Adam was not deceived. He just chose a woman over God. End of story. Didn't nobody fool Adam. He just chose a woman. He straight rebelled. He took the gift over the giver. Amen. You know God has gifted you when the gift he has given you is challenging you as your relationship with him. You know he blessed you. you know he gave you exactly what you wanted and a bag of chips. And he is the only secure person, being, that I know who'll give gifts like that. If you had omniscience and you knew the gift you were about to give was going to break your relationship up over this gift, you wouldn't give it. I wouldn't. Let me not talk for you. You might be suicidal like that, but I wouldn't. I ain't giving nothing that's going to take the attention off me. But that's what God did. Gave that kind. You see, he never steps into the earthly. He provides for the earthly, but he maintains his spiritual position in relationship to you and I, which means that he can expect praise when everything is going wrong in your life, because he'll tell you that is not connected to me. Your situation does not dictate how you respond to me.